everybody, and thank you for coming back to the BNS channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Hi everybody, and thank you for coming back to the BNS channel. I had done a video already in regards to how to approach somebody, and I wanted to follow up with that and say, okay, once you've approached somebody, how do you build that relationship so that not only can you get to know the person, but that they can trust you to purchase from you? The number one thing that people forget in sales is people will not buy from someone they don't trust. So it's very important to build a relationship. And what I want to talk about in this video is how to build that relationship and how it should be meaningful and, you know, not salesy and not scripted. As I said in the last video, as far as communicating with people, the best way to approach someone that you don't know and that you want to build a relationship with is to compliment them. And once you have started a conversation, in order to build a relationship, you have to gain trust. So one of the key things that I've learned in the past to be able to build that trust is what we call the 10-second rule. Now, the 10-second rule is something that should be utilized in every conversation, in every relationship. And basically all it is, it's very simple, is you share something for 10 seconds or less, if you can get away with it, and end it with a question. Now, you're going to share something for 10 seconds or less and end it with a question. So now you've got a response that you're waiting for. Most of the time, what happens at this point is if you feel uncomfortable because you're waiting too long for a response, you're going to fill in the blank. And now you're assuming what the person's going to answer. So that sort of thing needs to stop, because you can't build a relationship based on assumptions, right? So 10-second rule. Share something for 10 seconds. End it with a question. Listen for an answer. And then share for 10 seconds again based on the answer. And end it with a question. So it's a cycle. You're going to share for 10 seconds or less, end with a question, listen for the answer, share for 10 seconds or less based on the answer, end with another question. So now we are learning about that person. We are allowing them to engage in the conversation, and we're building a relationship. Now think back when you were first dating. How did you learn about the person that you were dating? You would ask questions. But if you didn't intently listen for the answers, you couldn't possibly have learned about that person. So it's very important to listen. And most of us have a problem of talking too much. Now, granted, when I'm doing these videos, I feel bad because I'm constantly talking. But I'm also teaching at that point. So it's a little bit different. But most people generally talk too much. So the 10-second rule is very important because it allows you to share with that person, but also to listen and to make sure that you're hearing what they're saying and that it's just not going through your head and you're waiting to be able to talk again, because a lot of people do that too. What this is doing is, one, showing the person that you're talking to, as well as reminding yourself that it's not about you. It's about the person that you're talking to. So your goal is to learn as much information as possible from this person in probably a very short amount of time. There's no time frame on how long this takes. You know, people buy from people they trust, and your goal is to earn trust. And trust comes from good communication. Trust comes from being honest and trustworthy, and also being a person of your word. So if you tell somebody that you're going to follow up with them in a couple days, you better do it. If you don't plan on doing any follow-up, don't bother talking to them, because that's just, you're going to lose their trust immediately. Again, I go back to building a relationship with a new partner or, a brand new friend or whatnot. If a person, I'm going to use a scenario. If a guy told me that somewhere that I met him and he said, you know what, I'm going to call you and we'll set up another date. Now, if that guy doesn't call me back, I can pretty much guarantee you that it ain't going to happen. So, granted that is for a deep level relationship, but that deep level relationship starts with trust. So, any relationship is going to be that way. So I don't care if you're, selling for other direct selling companies, if you're working in an office, if you're a teacher, if you're a doctor, you need to build relationships based on trust. So now the secret to getting more yeses from someone after you've built a relationship is to constantly practice. And when I say constantly practice, what I mean is, if you think that what I'm doing right now is not scripted, you're wrong. I have just practiced it enough and I understand the topic enough that I can relay it to you in a way that you feel is not scripted. So that comes with practice. In order for me to relay information to you, I have to practice it. In order for you to relay information to a potential customer or person that you're trying to build a relationship with, it takes practice. So, first and foremost, you need to develop the relationship in order to get a yes, because you're not going to get a yes if you don't develop a relationship. Start asking questions that actually draw a positive answer. Now, what I mean by that is, if I ask someone a question and the answer is no, automatically my head goes into a somewhat negative state. The word no is just negative, whether it's in a good context or a bad context, doesn't matter. It's a negative connotation. So I want to ask as many questions as I can in that 10 second rule, that actually have positive answers. Take into context where you are, take into context what that person is doing, and then ask the question. Then, obviously and I always tell people, don't start your conversation off with the company that you're working with or about the company you're working with. In my case, do not start the conversation out about Scentsy. You are going to instantly put a barrier up there for someone who doesn't like salespeople. So definitely don't start with that. However, you can pick and choose spots and moments during a conversation where you might be able to slip in there that you are a Scentsy consultant, or, for instance, maybe you're talking to someone about a trip that they just took. You can throw in there that, I just won a trip with my company that I'm working with or for, and that is so exciting. Where are you going on your trip? And, ask your question, wait for the answer. Then at that point, they may ask you, who do you work for? And you can bring up the topic of Scentsy. Now, I wouldn't do that unless they asked me, or I felt comfortable that particular conversation would be okay to take it in that direction. So that's when you make sure that you're giving the compliments to start off the relationship, making them feel comfortable with you, developing the relationship with the 10-second rule, and sharing with them any benefits that they might get from your company if the conversation invites it. Okay? And then you can, either pop the question. When I say pop the question, I mean towards the end of the conversation, you may say something like, well, I'm doing a monthly giveaway. I would love your information. I would love to get back with you on that. Would you be willing to give me your name and at least your email address, if not your phone number? So if you do win, I can give you a call back. And then give them something. Now, when I say give them something, I mean a catalog, a sample, a business card, because psychologically what happens is when you've received something from someone, your first instinct is want to give something back. So I always say, if you're going to ask them for their information, be prepared, or at least be giving them what you're going to give them at the same time, so that they are a little bit more willing to give you that information. But if you're going to bother to give someone something, you need to bother to follow up within at least 48 hours. That is the most important part about building a relationship. One, that shows them that you are trustworthy in regards to your word. It also shows that you are interested in them. And when you call them back, you say, reference where you met them or what the conversation is about. Don't just say, I'm calling to follow up, because that's so insincere and very salesy. And I never like that. I don't like receiving calls like that. I don't like giving calls like that. You should be able to write those notes instantly after the person is not in your presence anymore. In order to prove to the person that they should give you time to speak with them, the notes that you took are something that you want to review before you give them a follow-up call. Now, when you give them your follow-up call, you have 30 seconds to prove to them why you're calling and why you're calling back. So those notes are going to be very beneficial to you. So I'm going to tell you that communication is key, and building a relationship with an individual is also key. Remember that to start a conversation, compliment them. Don't forget the 10-second rule. And remember that people buy from people they trust. So build a relationship first, and then let the rest happen on its own. And don't forget that I am growing my team. I have to put a plug in there. I would love to have you on my team if you're considering joining Scentsy. I love to teach, I love to support, I love to coach, and we have an unbelievable time together, and I would love for you to be part of that. So message me and let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. Have yourselves a sensational day. Bye-bye.